Hello and welcome to Dayton Live. I'm your host, Anthony Whitmore. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic today is free mom hugs. And of course, I know all of you out there in our audience are aware of this unique group of free mom hugs. I'm the only person, I'm sure, that did not know, ladies, what that was. Please join me in welcoming our three guests, and I'm going to allow them to introduce themselves, and then we're going to jump straight into free mom hugs.
I am a mom to two wonderful teenagers, and one of them just happens to be a member of the LGBTQ plus community.
Wonderful. Cassie?
My name is Cassie, and I am also a mother. And I am a mother of three kids, and one of my kiddos also just happens to be a member of the LGBTQ plus community.
Nicole?
No surprise, I'm a mom too. I have two kiddos, and I have a boy child, he, him, and a girl child, she, her. And my she, her child is a part of the LGBTQ plus community as well.
That's fascinating. I didn't know that part, Nicole. I knew that all of you had your own special angels. And through that, and please note to our audience, LGBTQ community has been, I think, very visible in the media a great deal. But today, I want us just to talk about you as moms and those angels that you have. And they are angels. And the key is to get them to understand that they have value, they have purpose, and that God made all of us. And the last time I checked, He didn't make any mistakes.
That's right. Exactly.
So let's jump into this, and also, but I'd also like to share with the audience that I met these ladies at a film showing entitled Mama Bears, and I didn't know what that was, so being curious, I found out. And in the process, we were among a few other 100 people watching a unique documentary about LGBTQ community, but also about the people. And that to me is the most important part. And the last part of this conversation is that the young lady who did the documentary, Darisha Kai, is from Dayton, Ohio. Even though she no longer lives here, she lives a long way from Ohio. But I'm happy that she thought enough of this population to do justice by doing actual factual research and getting information from individuals. Now tell me, what exactly does a mama bear know? What does free mom hugs do? I know what Mama Bear does.
So the free mom hugs is just all about making members of the LGBTQIA plus community feel welcome by stepping in or standing in as parents and showing love and support, mostly through giving hugs whenever and wherever we are.
What a wonderful thought, and that's contagious. And whether we fit that population or any other population, I think there's always room for a wonderful, sincere hug, and especially when people give it freely. Let's talk a little bit, ladies, about what's been going on in the media and looking at, even in our own state, the issues. And we're going to just talk briefly about that part of the political part of the tribulations and the challenges that the LGBTQ community faces. Nicole, how do you see that? You're a taxpayer. You're here. You contribute to the community, and now we have something else that confronts us in dealing with your child?
So, as a group, we come from a diverse backgrounds
Sure.
and walks of life and lifestyles, which makes our group really unique and beautiful. So, bringing all of those together, we also have individual opinions.
Of course, of course.
I think the one thing that is the strongest in our group of those opinions is equality, protecting our children and giving them the right to live their best life, whatever that life looks like, even if it's different from mine. As a parent, that was something that I had to dig into. I've always been a part of the diversity and inclusion community as a whole, but that was something that struck me. As soon as I was aware that my daughter was a lesbian, it was, oh my goodness, it's going to be hard for you. You can't do all the things that the traditional segment of the population has always done. And politically, we're wanting to move forward to those equality rights, just as we have for many other segments of the population who have gone through the same plight. Currently, it seems we're going a little backwards. So we're backsliding a little bit as a community and a political structure. So it's terrifying. You worry every night, every day.
So Cassie, what are your thoughts on this area, subject matter?
It's really hard when we start to politicize something that can be so detrimental to people. At the core of it, we're really talking about oppressing a whole group of people. And in my professional life, I'm a mental health therapist, and so that's something that's very important to me. It's something that I'm very passionate about and that I care a lot about, because I know that I work a lot with LGBTQIA plus clients, and suicide is a very high reality for those clients. And so talking about things that are politically based, that have to take a lot of time to go through, political realms and be voted on, when people are literally considering death because their very existence is being denied. That's a very real conversation that needs to be had. And I don't think waiting for things like bills to be passed or turned over is something that we have the time for, when people are considering whether or not they want to be alive in this type of environment.
Heather?
Yeah, I agree. It's just very basic. You're talking about the health care and the very mental well-being of your child. My child is trans, and I saw my child go from a happy-go-lucky young child to all of a sudden so sad and withdrawn. And when I found out the reasons why, when he felt comfortable telling us who he was, and my first immediate thought was, I need to get him all the help he can, because I was truly scared for his life. The how he felt about himself, when all I saw was this beautiful child, but the way he thought of himself, through no fault of his family and everybody else who was supportive, that's still a struggle. And for somebody to politicize just he needs health care, he needs mental health care, he needs the medication, all those things have turned my child into the happy, successful, everybody that meets him loves him. He's amazing in every way. His teachers, everybody loves him and that knows him, and that wouldn't be possible without all those things in place. So for somebody just to turn that into a political argument, it's not about that. This is about just the very basic. He needs those things to be who he is and to be the person that he is. And I am not going to, I'll do whatever I need to do to make sure that he has those things, whether it's move. I mean, those are things that I've put in my mind because I am not going to take those from him. And then I think about other kids who don't have that support and those other things in place, and I just can't imagine. So something I feel very strongly about, just as a personal level. My son needs those things in place. We cannot take those away from him.
Well, it's clear, and that's why I refer to you as angels, because you're really advocates, not just for your children, but for all children. And this. Ladies, when did you know that your child was who he or she is? When did you know?
I was actually pretty surprised. I mean, we've always been a very open family. We have plenty of other members of our family in the community, but we never were. We were those parents that always dressed our kids in gender neutral stuff to begin with. We just never made it a big deal. But I was surprised when my son let us know that he was indeed trans, and I was. It was very surprising to me, but I was okay with it too. Because I could tell as soon as he let me know, the relief that came from him was immediate, and I kind of just sprang into action. Like, okay, what do I need? I mean, I was right away, like online trying to find out, okay, what do I do? Who can I find to help talk me through this, because I didn't know.
Help. And that's why it's so important that you have a group of people that you can come together to have that discussion.
Right.
Nicole, same question.
It was a bit of a mix. I think I suspected from very early on, but it wasn't until, I guess, she was 16 and withdrawing. We've always been like you, a really close-knit family, very open, sometimes too open. And when we had the conversation, it was very much of a conversation. We were laying in bed. I remember you remember those moments, right? We were laying in bed and she was struggling with the words, and I just kind of laid my hand on her and I said, whatever you have to tell me is okay. We just need to keep the open communication. And that freed her up to be her authentic self. And I think that's really the thing that that is the driver. Allowing individuals to be their authentic self, and it being okay, not just accepting but affirming. And that's the movement that we get to when we embrace people or give them the high five. It's not just accepting, it's affirming. The magical thing that came out of that, my son is about 5 years younger. He came downstairs one night around dinner time and let us know that he had thought a lot about it, and through what he watched with my daughter and myself and how she came out, he came downstairs and he said, I've thought a lot about it and I have a lot to tell you. I like girls. So it made it normal to, it is the standard to come out with whatever you are,
Right.
whatever you love in our household, reflect on it, and made it the standard. And I thought, what a beautiful thing, setting the standard through what you do. And that's kind of why we all get together and we show and hug people.
And you gave them security, not just love, but secure. Cassie?
I think I kind of started like Nicole. It was like you kind of picked up on a couple of things, but you weren't really sure, and you don't want to, make those assumptions. But it was kind of one of those moments where we were sitting together, and just as part of my job, I do a lot of training and a lot of educating as far as, LGBTQIA community and education. And we were riding in the car one day, and I feel like we have a lot of our conversations in the car. Like, I don't know if that's everybody, but we were just kind of talking, and he said, Mom, how do you talk to people about sexuality? Like, how do you tell other kids about it? And so I brought up the gender unicorn, and I'm like, this is what we use at work. This is how I use this to kind of like talk to other people and educate other people on sexuality. And he said, so what do you say pansexual is? And I said, well, I had another kid tell me what they feel like pansexual is to them. And I said, that's probably the best thing that someone has ever told me. And I said, hearts over parts. That's the best description. And I said, another kid gave that to me. Was hearts over parts. And he said, Mom, I'm pansexual. And I was like, oh, okay. And like, we just kind of kept driving down the road, and like that was the conversation. But yeah, I think it was just in that moment, and kind of like it was that affirming of like, all right, here we are, and then we're moving on. But yeah.
So it's very clear, and it touches my heart because it's still there with you, Cassie, and there you are, a mental health therapist. And so this kind of thing is not easy for anyone, and because people don't prepare us for all aspects of life. But one thing is very clear: as mothers, you're truly angels because you give us life, but you also give us sustainability and the tools and resources that we need to survive the life that you've given to us. Now, once all of this came out, what are some of the challenges that your children have faced? Now, anyone can just jump in that, but then one big one that each of one of you take to tell us about. What was the big challenge for the child, if there was?
I know for us, we live in a small rural community. And so he stands out. Like, even as a kid that is very kind of straight passing, I would say, he's not one that is, overtly out. I don't know another way to say that.
Yes.
But he is I always say straight passing. He still stands out because of the type of community that we're in. And so it definitely sets him up to kind of be picked on a little bit easier than in like bigger communities where he would be able to blend in. Or there would be like so many people that like, and I hate to say it like this, but it's just the world that we live in, where there'd be like more targets. Like, that's such a gross way to say that. But there's not very many of them. And so they kind of like, they get all of the brunt.
Sure.
So I think that's just a big part of it, is we do live in a small town, but I think the benefit of that as well is they are so loyal to each other. Like, that is his pack. Like, they are there for each other. And like, he found friends very quickly because, and I think this is very common just in the community in general, they have to have that support because it is so cruel out there, that when they find that community and when they find that support, they have to stick together. And so like, once we moved to that, because we haven't lived there for very long, but once we kind of moved in there, it was like, find your people and stick together because it's about survival. Like, that's really what it's about. So that's the one benefit, is it was easy to find him so that he could survive, but on the same sense, it makes him an easy target.
Which is why we stick together too. We find each other and we support each other, and that's one of the biggest things that we do as a group. Just coming together, pooling our resources, things that I think a common thread is that we sometimes don't know enough. You were so lucky that you were already in the field, but that was my biggest thing. I didn't want to ask questions that were not, that were inadvertently hurtful. So I could go to our group and join with each other. How do you say this? How do you approach this? What's the best way? And support one another through all of it learn, and then pass it on.
So everyone is learning at this time period. Not only your child is learning and transitioning to whoever he or she is, but you too.
Yeah.
The entire family. And of course, small communities are a challenge. And certainly as a man of color, I understand community. I also understand those things that people can say or look at you and or to make you feel uncomfortable, or you walk into a room and you just know that you are on the menu. And that's unfortunate. So Heather, what about you?
I think the biggest difference, maybe just having a child who's trans, is that you have to really touch on the medical issue part
Yes.
of it, and that's was really I immediately called the only at that time the only gender clinic was at Cincinnati Children's, and when I called them, there was at least a 6-month wait to see somebody, and I just thought, I can't wait that long. He can't wait that long. So it was a real scramble to find, first of all, just not only a mental health therapist that could help with his specific issues, but then somebody who could give him the medication he needed and was seeking to help him with that transition. So we were lucky to eventually find a doctor. I think through Pride, I found that Dayton had a great doctor at their adolescent medicine clinic. And so we were finally able to get in and get some of those things started, which helped ease some of his anxiety and made him happier almost immediately. But then since then, that doctor's moved to Nationwide in Columbus, and so we're still seeing them, but we're doing a lot more telehealth and just finding doctors that can help with those things. The waiting lists are long, and there's not that many in the area that can help you with all those resources you need. There's a lot more medical need, and that as opposed to just maybe being gay or so those are the things that and I've had to find out, he gives them self shots every week.
Sure.
And we've had to learn about that process, and I mean, it's just a lot of things were not nowhere in my wheelhouse of knowledge, but those are the things that I have learned with him, and so that definitely has been a big challenge. And for the next steps, that's kind of on hold because of the reluctance of doctors to get involved with, especially if you're under 18.
Yes. Well, this is a very serious topic, and one in which communities should be involved in having that, because we're all part of a greater community. And there are challenges even with just your other children and having that. What is the last thing you'd like to say to the audience, my audience? What would you say to them?
One thing I've seen a lot of different sayings going around right now, especially it's being Pride Month, but something to the effect of the people that be careful, the people you hate might be somebody you know. And I think that one, there's so many people that you don't know their stories, and we don't go around asking who we all love and that's just
Sure.
not something we talk about. So you don't know the stories of anybody, and not just their sexuality or
Sure.
but just anything. And we just have to love people regardless, because you don't know their story. You don't know what's going on with them. The hate that you're just spilling out of your mouth you're talking about people. You're not just talking about a thing.
Sure.
You're talking about people, and you can't talk about people that way without causing damage.
Yes.
And I can't imagine in your heart wanting to damage somebody. I mean, why? How could you talk badly about anybody or hate somebody? And so I think that is my final.
All right.
That's something that has kind of spoken to me when I've seen that. Just, and I hope that my son and other people like him are changing people's ideas about that. Maybe.
As you're doing today, Nicole.
I think that the final thing I'd like to say is piggybacking on that a bit is don't judge a book by its cover.
I like that. Don't judge a book by its cover.
It's more important to save your thoughts that are negative. If you don't say anything nice, don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. That's one of those Southern sayings that really is good for the soul.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you. Cassie?
Yeah, I mean, you really just kind of said it so beautifully, but these are people, and it's just important to keep that in mind and to recognize and understand that at the end of the day, they deserve love, and they deserve to be here, and they deserve to be cared for, and that's most important overall.
Wow. There's so much more to talk about, so much work to be done, and I just thank God for the three of you being the recipient of your children, because they need strong people in their lives, and they need that extra love to find a way so they can be that authentic self. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you felt the hearts of these ladies. They are mothers like many of you who are out there. They have their challenges as you have your challenges. And the other part of this show is to be reminded that we are all due respect. We are all due an opportunity. We're all due acceptance, and as Nicole said, affirmation of who we are. You'll hear more about this as well as others. I hope that you will join us again for our next show. Ladies, thank you, thank you, thank you for being here, and thank you for caring about our community. See you next time, Dayton. Dayton Live.